Hi, this is Amber from the A-Team. Today we're covering Drive and Docs. So we're going to spend some time with you going through the basics of those things. So if you're at your Google login page, no matter where you get to it from, whether it's your launcher or whether you go to google.com and then sign in, there's something I want to cover with you before we get into Drive. One of the most important tips that I can give you is when you are going to the waffle or the Rubik's Cube, there are shortcuts here to get to docs, sheets, and slides. We would recommend that you not use these shortcuts. The reason being, when you go to an app like Docs, and I'll go ahead and click here so you can see, I'm going to be given every single document that I have access to. Now, because we have the folder called HCPS resources and anything placed in that folder is then shared with every staff member, this can be a very grueling process to look through just docs or just sheets. So we always recommend that even if you're looking for a Google Doc or a Google Slide or a Google Sheet, that you go to Drive. So that's where we're going to spend the most of our time today, is in the menu for My Drive, Google Drive. We recommend you come here because this is sort of more familiar. It's more like your Explorer window when you're looking for files on your thumb drive or on your computer. So this is the more familiar format. So I want to kind of walk you through the interface before we get down to the nitty-gritty of Google Drive. So on the left-hand side, you'll see that you have a little navigation menu. So we're going to look through those. The first link that you will see is My Drive. This is similar to what you think of as an M drive when you're thinking about Active Directory. This is the drive that belongs to you. This is where your files will be stored. Underneath that, you'll see an area called Shared With Me. Shared With Me contains items which have just been that, shared with you. So anytime someone shares a file with you or a folder with you, it will appear in the Shared With Me section. There's also now a shortcut here for Google Photos, and we're going to skip over that because we're not going to talk about Google Photos today. There is also a place where you can find the most recent files you've been working with. So if you've finished working on something and you're coming back really quick to look at it again, if you go to Recent, it'll show up in your recent items. If you watched our other session on email, you were introduced to the star concept. The star simply means it's something that's important. It's something that you use a lot. So if I have a file, for example, here I have an agenda that it's very important that I find that quickly, so I want to star it. I can right-click on it and add a star. So when I open that file, you'll see that I have a star at the top of my document. Here's my star. I can also remove the star by clicking on it, but I'm going to close that and tell you why that was important. So that's Amber's copy. So if I go into the starred label, I'm going to see Amber's copy. So that's just a quick way to get to things that you use very frequently. So consider using the stars. And trash is just that. It's the place where the items go that you have the rights to delete, and they will live in the trash. So when you go to your trash, there will be items there, and if you wanted to permanently delete them, you can select them and delete them again, and this will permanently delete them from your drive. So I'm going to go back to My Drive because that's the area you'll probably stay at the most, just so we're on this window. And now I want to go across to the top right, and we're going to look at some of the options over here. If you wanted to change your view to more of a list view, this icon changes it to a list view. So you have your folders at the top and your files at the bottom. If you prefer this view, then you can leave it in that view. This is your grid view or icon view. I personally like to leave it in this view, so it's completely up to you which you prefer. You also have some sorting options. So I'm going to go back to list view for just a moment. If I go to my sort options, I can sort by the things that were last modified, the things I last modified, and the things I last opened. It will default to be on name, which means it will be in alphabetical order by category. So my folders are in alphabetical order, and then my files are in alphabetical order. So you do have some sorting options. The next icon you'll see is the information button. This provides information to whatever you have selected. So right now I'm just in my drive. So if I wanted to view some information or details about my drive, it's going to tell what's been happening in my drive recently. It'll also show me details if I want it to show details. Now once you have this window open on the side, you could select something. For example, I'm going to select this document, and then my details are going to change. It's going to show me some information about it. It'll give me a little snapshot. It's telling me it's not shared. It tells me where it lives, when it was created, when it was opened, who owns it, and it also shows the recent activity. So this is kind of a good thing if you have a document in your drive and you're not sure whose it is or why it's in your drive. You can click on it and get some information about it. Then your gear button, that's the one where you're going to go if you want to do some settings, but we're not going to worry about that right now. We're just going to worry about how to manage your drive and what Google Drive is really all about. Now I want you to see that if you select an item, you do get some additional options on the top left. The first option is the Get Link option. If I click this, it allows me to get the link for that document that I could share with someone if I wanted to. It also allows me to share. This is your share button where you can share, and we'll talk a little more about sharing in just a moment. The eye gives me a preview, so if I want to get just a really quick glimpse of what that document or file looks like, I can click on the little eye. And the trash can, of course, is the delete. There is a sideways ellipsis that you can click, and it gives you some other options. Download, looking at details, moving it, so that will give you some more options. One of the things that some people forget that they are able to do is in Google Drive, the right-click option is always available. So if you don't want to use the menu items at the top, you can certainly right-click and get those additional menus as well. So now that we've learned a little bit about the interface, let's talk about how to get files into your drive. We talked about my drive being kind of like the M drive that's currently in Active Directory, and a lot of people are moving toward putting all of their files in Google Drive so that they can access them from anywhere and any device. It also allows you to be able to access files which you normally couldn't access because they're stored in Active Directory. You can get to them from home. So a lot of people are beginning to utilize Google Drive instead of your M drive. That being said, let's talk about how to get files into Google Drive. One of the first things that you may want to do is thinking a little bit about organization and perhaps creating some folders. So you can see here in my drive I have several different folders that I'm using. To make a folder, there are a couple of different things that you can do. You can click on New and choose Folder, or you can also right-click and choose New Folder. I'm going to go with our red button option, and I'm going to ask this to create a new folder, and I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to call this Digital Storytelling, and then I'll click Create. After I've done that, it will put it into my list alphabetically. So now I have a folder. If I double click on this folder, you'll see that I don't have anything in it yet. And it gives me the option to drop files, or I can click on New and upload files. So if I have a file that I want to upload, I will click File Upload, locate it, and click Open. You'll notice that the file is transferring, and when it's complete, you'll have a completed message, and you'll also see the file in your folder. Now there are a few other things you can do as well. I'm going to go back to my drive. I can also use the breadcrumbs at the top. Now I have a folder that is filled with some documents in my M drive, and I just want to bring that entire folder. Is that possible? Yes, it is very possible. So I'm going to make my window smaller here, and you see I have a folder on my desktop called Sample Folder, and inside there are some documents. There's some Word docs and there's a PDF. This could have a picture or an Excel file, whatever kinds of files you wanted to store, videos, whatever. And I want you to see what happens when I take this folder and I approach my Google Drive. I get this incoming message box. I'm going to open that a little bit wider so you can see how that works. Because I'm in my drive, I'm going to drag this over and it says drop your files and upload them. So I'm going to drop that file, and you'll notice at the bottom that it's going to start uploading those files. As it is uploading, and I'm going to go ahead and move this back over, you'll see that you'll get a success message, and now it says 5 of 5 items were uploaded. So in my folder, which if I look at the name of my folder here, it was called Sample Folder. So if I look here, I have the same exact folder, Sample Folder, and inside I have the items that were in it. Now this says 5 items because it also, the folder was also an item. So there are 4 items inside of one folder. So you'll notice now in my drive I've got this folder that used to be on my M drive, and I just dragged the whole folder straight into my drive. That makes it much simpler. You'll want to make sure that you have your thumb drive or your M drive window open and that you drag the folders that have the files inside, or you can just drag one file at a time, whatever you prefer, but there is that shortcut. Once you have your files up into your drive, there are some other things that you might want to consider doing. Now we made the digital storytelling folder, but you notice how this classroom folder is blue and my HCPS resources folder is yellow. Well, you can color code your folders. For example, this digital storytelling folder, I can right click on it and there's change color. So if I need my digital storytelling folder to be green, this little folder icon is then green. So it doesn't change anything except the little icon. So now let's talk about moving things around. So let's say that I uploaded a file, this Amber's copy file, and I really want it to be inside this digital storytelling folder. There's several ways that you can do this. One way is to simply take it and drag it until you get to the folder that you want to put it in and drop it, and then it will vanish into the folder. So if I go into my digital storytelling folder, now you'll see Amber's copy. The other thing that you can do, I'm going to open a different one. Let's do this class expectations document. If I open up my class expectations document, there's a picture of a folder up here at the top, and you'll notice if I hover it says Move To. I can click on this folder and I can choose where I want to put it. So this class expectations folder really needs to go into my classroom folder. So I'm going to put it into my grade level documents folder, and to do that I can simply click on the folder and choose Move. Now, when I close this and I go into my grade level documents folder, I can see my class expectations. So you can move things by dragging and dropping, but you can also choose your document and go to the folder and choose to move things. Now that we've kind of learned how to drag and drop and how to change locations and do some color coordination, let's talk about the basics of these folders. If you are really paying attention to detail, you see that some of the folders are solid and some of them appear to have a person inside. This is a visual cue to let you know this folder is private only to me. This folder is shared with someone or has been shared with me. That's a quick way to see right away if something's been shared. So let's talk about the benefits of sharing a folder. So let's say I'm doing a digital storytelling unit with some of my peer teachers on my grade level, and I want to create a container so that as we drop things into this digital storytelling folder, it's automatically shared with everyone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to either single click and go up to my share button, or I can right click and choose share. And I can decide that I want to share this document with someone. So I'm going to share this with Angie. And then I have to make some decisions. In Google, there aren't very many granular options for editing capabilities. You basically are able to edit or view and sometimes comment depending, and you'll see that momentarily. But I'm going to say that I don't want Angie to just view it because that would mean she would only see my resources. In this particular instant, I want to allow her to edit so that she can drop items into this digital storytelling folder so that we can collaborate and plan together. Now that means if I give her edit rights, she can add things, but she could also change things that are inside. So if I have a document, she can open it and change it. She can also remove it from the folder. So providing someone with edit rights has to be someone that you trust working with and that understands, someone who understands what it means if they've been given edit rights. We actually rarely use shared folders because of the sometimes ability to accidentally delete things or change things that didn't intend to be changed, but that's entirely up to you. So I'm going to give Angie edit rights, and if I leave this check mark here, she'll receive an email that says I've given her edit rights to a digital storytelling folder. So once I click send and the page refreshes, you'll notice that my icon changed to the folder with the person. And if at any time I want to see with whom I've shared this folder, I can go back to share. And it does have the names, and if there are lots of names here, you can actually click here and you'll see the long list. Now let's say at some point I don't want Angie to edit anymore. Perhaps I only want her to have view rights at this point. This is also the way that I can change her to a viewer instead of an editor. You can also, down in the bottom, prevent editors from changing access and adding other people. So there are a few things that you can do down at the bottom. Okay, so now we've shared that folder. So that means anytime I drag something into the digital storytelling folder, like let's say I'm going to take these book study questions and I'm going to move them to the digital storytelling folder. It's going to say you're going to move it here and now everybody can see it, and I'm going to say okay, because everyone who has access to digital storytelling has access to all these documents. And you'll also see a little icon of two people when a document or file is shared. With students, I would rarely use folder sharing. I would usually use the sharing option per file. Now that we've talked about sharing and creating folders, let's talk about files. Now, Google has its own very specific type of files that you can actually create in Drive. If you notice when I clicked on the New button, I can create a folder, upload a file, but there are also all these other things that I can create. Because Google is not just a storage place, Google Drive is also a place for creating things. So let's just imagine that I'm a student and my parents can't afford to have Microsoft Office on the home computer. Now I can use Google to create a document or a spreadsheet or a presentation. All I need is an internet connection. So let's talk about the difference. So I'm going to go to that folder I made earlier, the sample folder. and I uploaded some documents here. So let's say you put something in your M drive that was for a presentation you were doing, and all of a sudden you found a mistake in it and you needed to edit it. What you would have to do is download that document, save the document, and re-upload it. Google Docs allows you to have something called a live version of your document. For example, now that I have document 2 up here, when I click on it, I get a preview and I can download this document, and it's going to download to my computer. But if I make any changes to it, I'm going to have to re-upload the same document. We're used to doing this, but there's an even better way of doing it. So one of the things that we have been doing that we recommend to everyone to try to do is to start using Google to create your documents. And if not to create them, you can start changing them and converting them from a previous format to a Google format, just so you can always have the most recent copy of a document. So let's say we have this document here that right now is a Word document, and I want to make that into a Google Doc. I can double click on the document, and instead of downloading it, there's an icon here that says Open with Google Docs. I'm going to click that. Now what's happening is it's converting this document to a Google Doc format. So you'll notice I have all the tools that Microsoft Office has, except the icon is not the blue W anymore. It's this icon that looks like paper and print. What I like to do is take off the extension in the title so that I will just be sure and not get confused that this is not my Word document version. This is my version that's in Google. So I can make changes to this document, and notice what happened right here when I start typing. It's constantly saving. There isn't a save button. It's automatically saving every second, so I don't have to worry about losing something that I've been doing. So when I close this document, I want you to see what's happened back in my folder. Remember, I had doc2.docx, which was Word, and then I opened it as a Google Doc. So now I have Doc2 with a Google Doc icon. So that means right now I have the Word version and the Google Docs version. What I like to do is I like to get rid of the Microsoft Word version. Unless I really have to have it, I remove it so that I don't get confused. So I'll know that Doc2 is always the most current version, because all I have to do is click on it, make another change, and I don't have to re-upload it anywhere. It's saving it for me, and then I close it. The next time I open it, I have the most recent version of the document. So if this were, let's say, directions to a certain type of software and something changed, the icons look different or the wording changed, I could simply come to this document, make the changes on it, and the people I've already shared this with would still have the most current version of the document and wouldn't have to make multiple versions. So that's one of the reasons that we really recommend considering moving to Google Files. So if this were an Excel document, I could open it in Sheets. If this were a presentation that was in PowerPoint format, I could open it as a Google slide. So consider that. Now, let's say you have this document and maybe someone needs it in a Word format. You can always go back to the Microsoft Office format. Notice if I go to File, I have the option to download as a Microsoft Word document, as well as some other formats. So you have the option of going back if you need to. But this is a fabulous option when you're thinking about collaborating on something and always having the most current version, especially if you consider something like a school improvement plan or things where they're constantly changing. You don't have to worry about the most recent version if you're all looking at the same document. It will be the most current version. So that's a little bit about the difference between Google Files and other formats. Now, one of the things that you can do with your document is you can also share it. So I can click on share here, and I'm actually going to share this document, and I'm going to share it with Amber, and I'm going to tell Amber that she has some edit rights, and I'm going to let it send her an email. So I'm going to ask her to help me with this, and I'm going to send that to her. So she's getting an email right now that's telling her that she has some edit rights on a document. So one of the things that people can do that make these documents really powerful is you can also be in the same document at the same time, editing it together. So I just invited Amber to this document. So when she gets an email and she opens the document, I can see her come into the document with me, and it's noted by this image at the top. I can also see where her cursor is because the color on her picture is associated to the color of her cursor. So she can actually start to make some changes on the document. So Amber's typing, and I can also come here and be typing as well. And she can see where my cursor is. Now, this is us writing at the same time and having two people in here, but I want you to think about this in a collaborative situation where maybe you had students working in groups. They could actually be editing the same document at the same time. If you've ever worked on a document in the T drive before and someone else already had it open, it would say you can't edit it right now because someone else has it. So this is another workaround so that you can actually edit it together. Now, one of the things that comes up, especially with classroom teachers and using Google Docs in a collaborative format, is what if Amber came through and she did something really terrible and maybe she deleted everything. So the next time I open my document, I say, where did all the stuff go? Now, one of the things that's super powerful is I can go up to File and I can choose See Revision History. So when I've chosen See Revision History, I can see that Amber with this purple, look at all the stuff Amber took away. And then I can even go back and look at it in previous versions by clicking on it. So if I want to put it at a particular version, this is the one that was correct. I can leave it at this version. So I'm going to choose Restore this version. And so now it doesn't matter that Amber deleted all of that. But what it does tell me is that if I go into these revisions, I can see who did what and when they did it, because you have to be logged in to be able to access the document. So this is a really great way to kind of feel more comfortable about allowing students to collaboratively work on a document. So that is revision history. Okay, so let's talk a little bit again about the sharing. I gave Amber edit rights. Let's say she's already messed up here and I want to take those edit rights away. What you do is you right click and you go to share, which is the same place you went to share it. But you can click on it and then change the rights. So Amber can no longer edit. Maybe I want to allow her only to make comments, or I want her to only be able to view. And as soon as I click change, she will lose the ability to edit the document. As a matter of fact, if she has the document open and she will only see the view only icon. Now, there are some other edit options that I wanted to show you while you're here, because let's say you decided you wanted to try to use Google Docs and perhaps you made a newsletter that you wanted to share with your parents. Now, they're not going to be in our Google domain, and maybe whatever is in your newsletter is just fine if anyone found it. You can also, instead of specific people can access, you can click on this change button and you have some other options. Public on the web means anyone can search for it and find it. I use this actually very rarely, because in the situations that I need to use Google Docs, I use anyone with the link, because what that means is if I put that link on my teacher website, the parents can go there, click on it, and get to it. I don't really need it to be public or searchable, but those two options are certainly there. You can also set it so that anybody in Henderson County Public Schools could find it and use it. And you can also say that anyone in Henderson County Public Schools that has the link can see it. Or you can say, you know what, I only want very specific people to use it. So that's what this sharing option is about, and a little more details about that. Now, one of the other things that you can do in a document, if you have allowed people into your document as collaborators, something else that you can do is you can email them all at the same time. So let's say you've made a change, this is your school improvement plan, and you want everyone on your staff to now take a look at it and give comments and feedback. So I can actually go up to File and say Email Collaborators, and it's going to show me everybody that has collaboration rights, and then I can send them a message so that they can see whatever it is that I'm pointing out. You can also paste it right into the email if you're sending Gmail. So that's another option that you have in terms of collaborating. Another collaborating tool that you have is the ability to chat. So right now I have invited Amber into my document, and perhaps since she's here I want to chat with her about something. I can actually type a question into the document, and she gets a message and she can answer it. And so now we have a conversation in this document. I will tell you that students cannot chat in documents. Only staff members can chat in documents. This chat then is part of this conversation of this document. There's also a comment tool. So if you have comment rights, you can highlight something and click the comment button and say, I want to have a comment about that. And let's say this is not a complete sentence. And I can click comment, and my comment kind of goes with this highlighted area. So if someone clicks on the highlighted area, they see who has a comment about that and what that comment is. Someone could also come and reply to my comment. Now, let's say I used this with students and I told them, you know, this is not a complete sentence, and so the student came and fixed it. Then they have the ability to click resolve when it's fixed, and that comment goes away. So that's kind of another neat tool that's part of Google Docs. So I hope that you've seen, although there's some great tools in Word that you can use as well, this is a great tool that you can use online and then have a lot of people accessing it and collaborating on it at the same time. And again, this is a live document, not multiple versions of the document. So one of the things that we recommend doing is finding your documents that you've uploaded, and if they're in Word and you would like to try to have them be in Google Docs format instead of downloading, go to Open, allow them to open in Google Docs, and then what we're going to do is take off that extension so that we don't have to worry about getting confused. So this is our sample storyboard template. Remember, it's saving it constantly. So once it's saved, I can close it, And then when I come back, I'm going to have two versions, the Word version and the version I just created with Google Docs. So what I like to do is remove the Word version once I'm sure that the Google Docs version will work for me. That way I can use this one to share, collaborate, and always have the most current version and not have to worry about having tons and tons of versions of the same document. Okay, let's have a little conversation about trash. In this trash area, this is where any document that you have rights to delete will go. Now, if you wanted to get rid of trash, you have to manually delete it. Otherwise, it just kind of sits in here. Now, we don't have to worry about space in our Google Apps accounts, but if for some reason you wanted to just get things out of there just so that you don't need them anymore, you can either delete them forever, or you can choose to restore them if you've accidentally deleted something. Now, let's talk about searching. Because you have access to all those resources in HCPS resources, people have shared things with you, and now you have your own drive, it's easy to get lost. But if you are searching for something and you know it's somewhere in your drive, sometimes the fastest way is to use the search bar at the top because that's a quick way that you can search for something. So if I'm looking for something on Chromebooks, and I hit return, I'm going to find all these things, but some of the Chromebook things that's not what I meant to look for. So if you'll notice, there's a little triangle on the right that you can click, and you get some other options. Maybe you only want Google Docs that are about Chromebooks, and maybe you only want the ones that you own. So then when you hit search, I have no documents about Chromebooks that I own, so I have none. So maybe I want the ones not owned by me, then I'm going to only see the ones that are Google Docs. So you see how the search tool can really be powerful so that you don't get weighted down in your drive. I do want to go to the shared with me portion for just a moment so that you can see how this works. Sometimes when people share things with you, you'll get an email, and sometimes they will opt to not send you an email because perhaps they're just placing it in a resource folder. But anytime you need to look for something that's been shared with you, it will appear here. But again, you don't have to search through it. If you know what it's about, you can do your search up here without having to scroll through everything.